I'm going to call the meeting to order. And thanks everyone for coming. Especially thanks to Mr. Taylor for coming from Waste Management. He's done a really great job of explaining things in the past meetings that we've had. And so tonight's, really, the agenda is to hear from the public about the size of the receptacles, the trash containers. I think the council has been getting feedback in other ways as well. So tonight, this is kind of our rules of engagement here. So I'll open the public hearing here in a minute, and if you would come to the microphone and state your name and what ward you live in, and then you'll have 2 minutes to speak and no more than 2 minutes, so you guys talk fast. So, because I thought we might have several people. In fact, I thought we'd have more people than I see right now, but we might have more people trickle in. So, if you don't get everything done in 2 minutes, then we can go back through again. I'll let you go a second time, but if we have time. But so Doug's going to keep the track of the time at 30. When you have 30 seconds left, we're going to flash a yellow card. When your 2 minutes up, we'll flash this red card, and that's when we ask you to stop speaking. And certainly if someone has noted your point, we won't need to hear it again. I may ask for a vote who feels the same way about that particular thing. So again, we only want one person to speak at a time at the microphone because people are going to be listening at home as well. And again, we don't have a full house, but if for some reason all of a sudden a bunch of people come in here, then we want to rotate between here and the room out there so that people can hear. So, Council, do you have any questions before we get started? Any comments? Okay. I guess I'll just, I'm going to open the public hearing, and then do we have someone who wants to speak? Okay. Again, if you'll state your name, what ward you're in, appreciate it.
Right. That's good. Okay. Melinda Arndt, Ward 1. I live on the long dead end of East Washington off of D Street. We have about 21 dwellings on our road, and I walk up and down our street. We're the fourth house in 406. I think about maybe 5 households there would benefit from the larger size, and the rest of us, it's all one person or a couple. And so I just wanted to place a vote for the smaller sized wheelie bin.
Great. When you say smaller size, you mean the 65?
Yes, 65 is.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Just so everyone knows, that is the option that City Council has at this point voted on, is everyone gets to choose between the 96 and 65.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yes.
We were kind of trying to figure that out.
Right. That's what we discussed at our last meeting. So I think that's still.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
Unless anything changes tonight, that's kind of where it's sitting right now.
So we can accommodate your request.
So, Mr. Messerly, are you coming up here?
What's the waste management guy's last name? Taylor.
His first name is Eamon.
I haven't done this for a long time.
Just don't talk about my kids.
Yeah. Anyway.
And old stories.
I'm Ralph Messerly. I live in town here, and I'm here to talk about the issue of waste management and that situation. I'm going to talk just a couple things. We just found out today that, well, one of them, and it's a big one, is that I don't know how many, but there's people that are handicapped that can't get their garbage in their RC out to the road, and they're having to pay for somebody to come and do it. And we just kind of found out here today that there is some kind of a law that says if that's the case, the waste management will work with us and make it happen. If that's the case, that's going to solve a lot of problems. So that's one of the big issues, and I can speak to that. I know you probably think I'm still 21, but I'm 84 and failing fast. But anyway, so I can speak to that pretty well. As far as the recycling bins, the size, and that sort of thing, what does that mean? I'm about done?
You're about done.
Okay. That's another issue. And I talked to a lady in town, or in Des Moines today, just to get a feel for, so she understood what we're doing. And I said, if we can have a handicap sticker and park where we need to, and that doesn't cost us, and if we can drive through, if we have that sticker, drive through the parks and stuff and take people through and so on, then why wouldn't we be able to have somebody to help us do this too? Okay. She says, you got a good point there, bring it up to your council.
Okay, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, later.
Hey,
Do you have a preference on the 65 or 96 gallon bin then?
we don't need any bigger one.
Okay.
Unless somebody else is going to do it.
Okay. Sounds good. Ammon, can you speak to that issue with if somebody's challenged to get their bin out there?
You bet. Good question, Ralph.
Hey, thank you.
You bet, boss. So, if anybody can present a letter to the city showing from a doctor that they're certified handicap, or just show their card and show that age-wise they're elderly, then the WM driver, even with an automated truck, will stop at the home. We'll put notes on the account so he knows it's this address or that address. He'll stop at the home, go up and get the cart, bring it down, get back in his truck, and service it with the automated arm. Then take that cart back up.
Okay.
He will not go inside garages or
Yeah.
backyards or covered patios. It needs to be visible from the street. He's not going to go up a 1,000-foot private drive. But if he can see it from the public right-of-way and the account is noted as such, then he'll service it.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Hang on. He did. So go ahead, do it again.
No problem. Just certify with the city that you're either elderly or handicapped, and then the city will shoot us an email, hey, 123 XYZ Street has presented this letter from their doctor. Please note the account for house side service. Done.
Okay, so with that in mind also, if you know you have a neighbor that has challenges, please be neighborly also, if you can. Help your neighbors. Okay, next.
I'm Paul Skevington in Ward 2 and a resident of North Campus Village, and I'm actually on the board of directors for North Campus Village. We would like to push for a smaller size container than the 96 or the 64 gallon. Both of those containers are the same width of 24 inches. Most of our residents are in the senior category, and most of our households are just 1 or 2 people, and so we're producing very little trash per week. We also have just completed a project where each residence needs to have their garbage cans enclosed in a trash enclosure or in a garage. Many of them have built custom trash enclosures, and some of them have purchased those from Menards. So they vary in sizes. But right now they're often accommodating just 1 or 2 small, maybe 18-inch wide trash containers. So to go to the larger size may present a problem for these with a project that we've just completed over the past year and a half. So many of our residents would like to have an option for a smaller size container. I believe there's a 32 and a 48 option that other cities use. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, next.
Sorry.
My name is Peter Scharf. I'm also a resident of North Campus Village. And I myself also have a bin which is 40 inches in depth, and I share my bin with my enclosure, trash enclosure, with my neighbor. And so two of us have two large-sized 96 recycling bins and two small trash cans, which are less than 20 inches in width. And so they fit. And anything bigger than 20 inches in width won't. The 64 size containers are 24 inches in width and 28 inches long, so we can't fit them in, and two of them in anyway. So that issue, I think Paul already addressed, and I second that.
Okay.
The second thing I want to raise is that we're seeing a raise in price in the trash collection from $16 per person to about $22 per person, which is about almost 40% raise, 39% raise in price. And for the number of households in Fairfield, I estimate it's about $100,000 contract per year over 5 years, which amounts to about $500,000. And with a significant change in the way that things are being done, and I want to say I'm quite satisfied with the way things are being done now. The drivers are very polite, and we have no problems. It's efficient and reliable and so forth. And so, we have no gripe with waste management, but we're seeing a significant change in that contract and a significant restriction and diminishment in the services. So the natural thing I would see would be that this would warrant seeking bids from alternative proposals and considering what best suits the city.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
could you have Mr. Taylor address the question of smaller bins, since it's been asked twice?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about smaller bins?
Is that the question you want me to speak to?
Yes, two people have asked about smaller bins in
Yep.
the 65.
Great question, and actually had the opportunity to engage with Peter at the previous council meeting. Appreciate that, Peter, and Paul at the open house. Good conversations with both. There are two HOAs in town that I'm aware of that are specifically asking for that smaller car size. And actually, following our open house, we had a conversation internally specifically for those HOAs if a smaller, for just those HOAs, car size could be available. Unfortunately, we cannot offer a smaller size at this time other than the 65-gallon cart. There's several different reasons for that. First and foremost is there's limited supply of them. We can't always get them when we ask for them from the cart manufacturer that provides them. And we don't want to set an expectation that we can't then live up to as far as if a cart is broken or needs replaced. Part of that is because there's limited demand for them. They don't always make a whole lot of them. Also, they fall into the truck a whole lot more often than the other carts. They're smaller, they're skinnier, the claw is calibrated to have a certain tension of grip, and on a smaller cart, they're prone to fall in. I also spoke with a representative from the company that we buy the carts from, and he indicated that actually the smaller cart is a safety risk for elderly residents, and I was really surprised to hear that I was seeing elderly residents advocate for them. The smaller cart handle is substantially lower, so you actually can't drag it down the street without bending over, depending how tall or short you are. But it's lower, right? And it also can be more prone to give way when it has that lower center of gravity. So a taller cart can actually help a person of age balance themselves as they're walking. Yeah, for those reasons, we're not offering it right now. We are open to working with those HOAs for alternate scenarios. So for example, at the open house, we talked specifically about Silver Lakes Drive, finding an area right on the north side of Silver Lakes Drive, on the east of North B Street, right next to the loop trail, where maybe we could put 7 or 8 of the larger carts. Residents wouldn't have to have an individual cart at their home. They could come down and put a bag in. We have reviewed that proposal, gone and reviewed that site. We're happy to do that. If that property can be made available by the HOA or by the city, whoever owns that right away, WM is willing to do that. So we're looking for alternatives to meet the request of these residents. While we can't offer a smaller cart size right now, we're happy to look for a similar scenario at North Campus Village. If they have an area where they think they'd like to put a few of the larger carts, we're happy to do that. I welcome being corrected if I was wrong. My impression from the open house, there were some measurements being made of the carts there and some conversations around their width. I was given the impression that 165 and 196 gallon cart would fit within the new enclosures that had been built at North Campus Village. If that's not correct, then again, we welcome working with them for an alternate scenario.
So just so you know, I did get another email from the president of the HOA there, and he said, depending on what they have already built, sounds like some of them could accommodate and some of them can't.
Gotcha.
So it sounds like it's a mix. So, anyone else?
I'm Aaron Sheets. I live on East Fillmore, and I'm not sure what container I got. What's the size of most of the recyclables? 96?
Yes.
That's what I would propose.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of neighbors and stuff that has 2 or 3 regular cans sitting out there and trash laying all over and everything. If you had one, the same size as the recycle, I think that'd be the best.
Great. Okay.
Roll out, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
I have a question
Yeah.
this time.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
Mr. Taylor, I had a constituent ask me about the size, the larger bins, right? Most people have 30 gallons, I think. And one of the concerns one of my constituents had is Waste Management considering reducing the emphasis on recycling because they're putting out the bigger trash bins? And while you're addressing that question, just could you give us an outlook of what the recycling market looks like? Because I know there have been some restrictions lately, and so I anticipate less recycling, or am I wrong about that?
I certainly hope you're wrong about that. Not that I tell a council member every day, I hope they're wrong, but I hope you're wrong about that. So the 96 gallon size is the standard size used by most American households for trash. That's why it's offered and so common. The contract we're asking council to vote on tonight gives residents the option. If they want a smaller 65 gallon cart size, great, love it. Hopefully they take it because most of their volume is going in the recycle cart. We are big fans of recycling. WM has invested hundreds of millions of dollars and continues to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in recycling. And actually, I just had a phone call this last week with 2 people here in Fairfield, the wonderful Margaret and Faith. And we spoke about what we can do to encourage more recycling here in Fairfield, whether that's going to schools and doing presentations to the kids, whether that's going to churches, Lions Club, Rotary clubs. We want to provide this kind of education. What I've handed to Council Member Doug Florney is a couple of pieces of recycling education from WM about what should or shouldn't be put in the cart, and some tips on how to be more proactive at your home on recycling. So just because we're providing the standard size in America to Fairfield doesn't mean we're telling you recycle less. Nothing could be further from the truth. We want you to recycle more. We are looking forward to engaging in that education campaign here in Fairfield. As to the recycle markets themselves, they are up and down through the years, just like gasoline, right? So there's a market for cardboard, there's a market for glass, there's a market for plastic bottles, there's a market for metal cans. The single stream composition of all those different things you're putting into your cart has a blended market value, and it changes with time. It goes up and down. Right now, WM is paying considerably to recycle each ton of material. We're doing that as low cost as we can. We want to keep our costs down. But it costs us significantly more to recycle a ton of material than it does to just take it to the Semco landfill. Does that help?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie Pogel. I live in North Campus Village, and I thought we learned a couple weeks ago at the City Council meeting that the glass bottles were actually taken to Des Moines and put in their landfill.
So that was a conversation that we had at our committee meeting, and that was the information that we received at that time, and which has since been updated, correct? Glass is being recycled.
I'm unaware that at any time I said glass was going to the landfill. We did discuss it in a committee meeting. I asked for the opportunity to review what was happening specifically to glass as it comes out of that blended stream. And the email record shows that I did follow up with the city confirming that there is a market right now for glass and it should continue to be put into recycling. In fact, it is represented as such on the education I presented to the councilman.
Madam Council, Waste Management wasn't involved in that conversation. It was a private citizen that was having that conversation.
We were discussing glass, though, at our meeting with
Yeah.
Waste Management. Now, whether or not at that point there was any confirmation that glass was going to a landfill, I guess I don't remember that specifically, but we did go back and forth about whether or not glass was was recyclable, because we were talking about an education campaign for the public. After that conversation, you did send that email saying after further research, glasses. Keep putting it in.
And that's what that education shows.
And that's what we have now. Mm-hmm.
So at the last City Council meeting, you were absent at that meeting. You did present the fact that the glass bottles were just going in the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
But I just encourage, as long as we're asking people to recycle, to try and also cut down on trash. I don't think we need these big cans, and we're encouraging people to just throw away. I mean, I have a household of 2 people, and I have 1 or 2 bags. We all have yards, we can compost, so that's all. I'm just encouraging that we all cut down on our trash. And these big, even the 65 gallons, it's hard to manipulate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kind of along those lines, I know that I've had conversations with our sustainability coordinator and others about how we can kind of encourage people to learn how to compost and what we can do to kind of educate the public, including myself. I would like to have less food waste. So that's something that we're talking about, being able to work with the public and education campaigns and such.
So I think we can take 1 or 2 more. Go ahead, Patricia.
So I just had a couple of comments. One is the thing about the recycling. When a couple of people did bring it up early on, that they were concerned that with a very large container, people would be too tempted to just throw everything in it and stop separating their recyclables. And I didn't think it sounded like an issue, but today it just really dawned on me, why have to drag those huge containers out to the curb twice when you can just do one and throw everything in it? That is going to be a very big temptation for people, and I get it. And especially if you only have 1 or 2 bags going in a huge container. So I do think that that is an issue, and I think it's going to kind of put an end to recycling, if in fact recycling is worth it, which I hope it is, because I still want to do it. But I do think that is a huge concern, and I think it's bigger than we like to think it is. And the other thing is that one of the things that Mr. Ammon mentioned at the meeting in the library was in terms of the greater good, that he's looking out for the whole community as a whole and satisfying, their needs, and also leaning on the idea, which I understand maybe most of the country does use the very gigantic industrial-sized containers. Everyone that I've talked to in our neighborhood, in Silver Lakes, and the across-the-street neighborhood in North Campus, the issue seems to be the opposite, that people are not feeling the same. People are not feeling the same way about that sense of greater good, where they want to use a bigger container just because it's being mandated, that they have a very small amount of trash. It's a very big deal to get to the curb, especially where we live. and we do need assistance with that. And I hope if nothing comes of it, that I can think of other alternatives that I would like to discuss at a later time with the council to see what we can do to make that happen for us, because it's just never going to work for us.
Patricia, is your HOA open to having several bins there on the north side of Silver Lakes Drive?
The reason I haven't asked anyone is that I know that the person who owns that property that goes right up to the sidewalk where we leave the bins, she owns that property up to about a foot or two in front of it. And that means that her property would suddenly become like a dumpster area. She's out of town for a few weeks. I mean, I can get a hold of her and ask her what she would think. I already know what the answer would be, but I will be happy to ask her if it will make a difference. Because we would have to assemble several cans and build some kind of partition around it so that it's sort of hidden. But the other problem is then the cans are sitting there. They're not, everyone's dumped their stuff in them. Now somebody has to take the responsibility every week to come out and move them all out to the sidewalk and then move them back again.
I think you're just going to pull the truck in, right, on that road? Yep.
Service them.
Yeah, so nobody will have to move them out to B Street.
So
The truck would come in, lift them up, empty them, and then drive out.
I think we would have to make a clearing for that, and we would have to get the permission of the property owner to really.
Yeah, well, that's a
clean out
work in
the
process,
area.
but let's see if we can't work that
So you're
out.
saying the part that faces Silver Lake, not the part that faces B Street?
Correct. So.
I will ask and see if she's open to it.
Yeah, well, and if you want us to talk to her, we can.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it's 1 minute till 7. I'm going to stop there, and, because we've got to start the meeting. So I appreciate everybody coming and discussing and sharing your thoughts. Appreciate it very much. So with that, I'm going to close this meeting, and if anybody needs a quick. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Rebecca, please call the roll.
Ham. Here. Toohill.
Yes.
Esty. Yes. Flournoy.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Kness. Yes. Rowe.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Council, are there any changes to the agenda? Anybody have anything? If not, I'm going to move into, we have 2 officers to swear in tonight, Mr. Sawyer Mast and Terry Smith. So if they will meet me wherever they're at, right here.
Have a house full.
Oh, half the department is here.
You betcha.
Give you front and center, gentlemen. So if you want to turn around, face the audience, and raise your right hand, and you will follow my lead. Okay? And so to repeat after me, I, and then state your name.
I, Terry Smith. I, Sawyer Mast.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear. Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States. That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
And the Constitution of the State of Iowa. And the Constitution of the State of Iowa.
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
And I will faithfully and impartially. And that I will faithfully and impartially.
to the best of my ability,
To the best of my ability. To the best of my ability.
discharge all the duties of police officer
Discharge all the duties of police officer. Discharge all the duties of police officer.
in the city of Fairfield
In the city of Fairfield. In the city of Fairfield.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Here and hereafter required by law. As now and hereafter required by law.
Thank you very much. You did great. If you wouldn't mind just giving a few short sentences about yourself, a little background and where you come from and
My name is Terry Smith, and I'm from Georgia, where I served at Richmond County Sheriff's Department for several years. Great department. Came down here in 2005-06, worked for the Marion Police Department for several years. Great department, and took a little hiatus from law enforcement, but decided to get back into it, and I'm looking forward to serving and protecting the city of Fairfield and some great officers, and enjoy my work.
thank you.
Yep. My name is Sawyer Mast. I'm from Fairfield, and I serve in the Iowa National Guard. I'm looking forward to serving the community I grew up in.
Awesome. Thanks. Good luck. We wish you a great career and safety and be well, and you'll have these to sign.
All right.
And Rebecca will get you on that.
I'll find you. Thank you. I'm not sure. You're so far behind, I've lost track.
A family turnout.
So we will move on to the consent agenda.
Maybe 12.
Approval of the minutes of the January 13th, 2025 council meeting. Approval of the January 17, 2025 payroll in the amount of $148,716.41. Approval of the July finance report. Approval of the August finance report, and approval of the September, these are all 2024 finance reports. Acceptance of the Beautification Commission minutes. Consent of park use permit for Golden Magnolia Sanctuary. This is a noise exemption. Consent of park use permit for the Art Walk. Again, that's a noise exemption for June 6th, July 4th, August 1, September 5th, October 3rd, and December 5th of 2025. A resolution of employment in the Park and Recreation Department. Approval of liquor license for Horizon Wine Bar, Dollar General, number 7142, and American here in Fairfield. Approval of the ACH payment to the Department of Revenue in the amount of $672.77. Do I have the right amount?
Yep.
Okay. Approval of special claim. This was our visa in the amount of $9,327.52. And approval of total claims in the amount of $458,117.42. We had one claim over $75,000 to Woodruff Construction for Step 3 in the amount of $195,261.64.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Okay, moved by Gandy. Second. Second by Esti. Any discussion?
I did review the claims and they all seemed in order.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Not, please call the roll.
Gandy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Kness? Yes. Ham?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So that consent agenda was approved unanimously. Okay, under public forum and appearances, we have Mr. Ed Malloy here from Grove Fairfield Economic Development Association to share his annual report.
Mayor, good evening, Council. What I've provided you is a copy of our most recent strategic planning document. That was one of the large accomplishments for us this year, so I wanted you to have a copy and take a look at our direction going forward. Our current board members, we have 8 board members. We just welcomed T. Liptak and Vanessa Willman to our board. They came to their first meeting today. And as I mentioned, our strategic plan covers a 5-year period of time, 25 to 2030. We utilize the services of the Institute for Decision Making at University of Northern Iowa. City of Fairfield has used them in the past. Our organization has used them in the past. They do a really great job of synthesizing all of the ideas and getting the most out of the process. These are some of the intentions for getting the most out of the planning process, which we began in May and completed in August. The vision statement for our future is Grow Fairfield has been the catalyst for unprecedented local development, investment, and talent attraction in our community 2025 to 2030. This has been a period of renewed and newfound levels of community pride, entrepreneurship, and neighborhood development. We have embraced that we are competing on behalf of our shared future and have transformed Fairfield into the jewel of the Midwest, which I believe we already are, but we did set that agenda going forward. Our mission statement, live here, build here, grow your business here. There were 5 particular areas, goals that we identified are urgent housing development, business retention and expansion, business attraction, and support for workforce retention and attraction, and also thriving organization. We would like to grow the services that we offer as a nonprofit organization in partnership with the city, so all of those are part of our plan. Starting with our housing goals, we've discussed here the Housing Trust Fund that is underway. That will be a nonprofit that will work with the city on funding developer incentives and builder incentives for all kinds of housing projects in the city. We begin with an infill housing program, which you're also all familiar with, the Homes for Iowa product that we're using on vacant lots. We are working with local builders and contractors to encourage new housing starts. We've offered one conference, or rather meeting of developers and builders already, and we have another one scheduled for February 12th that I'll talk about in just a minute or two. We've had meetings with outside developers to invest in our new subdivision. We look forward to the infrastructure piece of this beginning in 2025. We hired Rachel Hillier as our full-time operations manager with a special focus on housing development projects. The trust fund will be a 501c3. It will incentivize local builders and to create homes designed to meet an infill market along with our new developments, and partner with the city to create policy to incentivize the developer investment. Funds will be used for both infill and new development. This is supported by Fairfield's largest employers to address the workforce housing availability. This is the site map of our new subdivision, which I think you're all also familiar with. The blue shaded area being phase 1, and we're down to 31 lots at this point in time, but making a lot of progress on things there. Here I'm visiting with Amber, who is with the Habitat for Humanity and has utilized the Iowa Prison Industries Homes for Iowa product. And this is the most recent one that they brought on site last fall. They really provide a great opportunity for affordable housing. These homes will reach that really lowest level of income opportunity through the Habitat for Humanity. Ours are going to probably have a few more amenities with more paved areas, sidewalks, driveway, one-car garage. So we hope to really build on what's already been utilized in that section. We've purchased the lot from the city on 6th Street and Monroe. We've purchased a lot on 7th Street in Jackson, and we've also purchased the
Logan lots, 3 lots there. So we are working with developers to look at those projects also for some multifamily options. And we've ordered the 2 homes for Iowa. They will be delivered in June. Infill housing, city property, vacant lots, dilapidated property, rehabilitation, homes for Iowa, local builders, design, meaning that we want to also challenge local builders and contractors to come up with their own small home design that would fit on an infill city lot as well, not just rely on the Homes for Iowa product. We're hoping to encourage that through the incentive program. Duplexes and triplexes will be a part of that. So. Jason, I think I was. So I get my full screen back. Okay. So this is an example of the delivery of one of the homes for Iowa in the picture. And then the other area that we began focus on this past year was our downtown. Started at the beginning of the year forming a summit committee with the mayor, the CVB, Chamber, and Grow Fairfield. That grew into the pursuit of the Iowa Main Street program. We presented to the Main Street board. We were not accepted, but we will be submitting another application this spring. And there will only be 3 communities competing for this, and I believe 2 will be selected out of 3. So we feel we've got a pretty good handle on that. And we co-funded the downtown assessment presentation by Iowa Area Economic Development, Downtown Resource Center, and they'll be back next week to give a presentation on financing opportunities. The Main Street Iowa program is very popular around the state. It is still, something that's very competitive, but will address a lot of those issues. Yes, Paul.
Ed, are they coming this week, the 29th?
I'm sorry, it is this week. Yes, it's Thursday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, yes.
6:30 at the library.
Yeah. Business retention and expansion. We helped with the HiCast Foundry introductions to state incentives for new job creation. There are a number of business expansions underway. Traffic Devices has an expansion planned. Overland Sheepskin just purchased the building, and there's HiCast and also Susi, which is a new company that's going into the old Harper Brush or Ames building in the industrial park. They're a Canadian company that has an American component to it that manufactures a very special drive tracking wheel system, or it's more of a tracking system for agricultural vehicles. So they have a 10-year contract with John Deere, and they'll be assembling and doing distribution from their location here. We've had meetings in Des Moines to engage housing developers there to look at our new subdivision development. And we have regularly scheduled meetings with employers for retention and expansion assessment. We've just signed a contract with NewBoCo, the New Bohemian Innovative Collaborative. Many of you are probably familiar with this from the Cedar Rapids area. It's a business accelerator. They have been offering the Traction Thursday services here in Fairfield for the past year. That's open to entrepreneurs within the community. There's a different topic each week, and entrepreneurs are either learning or pitching to the experts that come on a weekly basis. And the contract for that had expired, and they signed a new contract for 2 years with Fairfield and the Chamber of Commerce and Grow Fairfield as partners in this. We will be focusing more on the acreage that we have in what we refer to as the South Industrial Park, with 57 acres there and a contiguous to 4-lane highway. We're looking to put more marketing attention on that for this year. We hosted Governor Reynolds here for a meeting in Fairfield to share accomplishments. That was basically called for by the governor. She really wanted to dig deeply into what's going on here from a business standpoint. She left very impressed. And this is a flyer on the mini conference that we're going to have on February 12th. We're hoping to get all of our local contractors and builders there to talk about the development projects that we're doing, but also help them with some basic training in applying for the Iowa workforce tax credits, which would really be a great incentive for them in terms of what they would like to accomplish and increase the profit margins on their projects. We are 47 years in operation and in land development, and the projects that we've been involved with from a developmental standpoint, from both housing and industrial parks, values $76 million in value to the city of Fairfield. That really describes why we exist. So thank you for your time, and I know we get a chance fairly often to visit with what we're doing, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them now.
Any questions, Council? Yeah, so remind everybody this Wednesday, 6:30 to 8, is that right? The time frame? Will be this event at the library about
Great.
finance.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Next is the public bathroom request from Sarah Krone, but I don't see her here. Was she going to be here?
She filled out the form to be here.
Yeah, didn't know if she spoke directly to you. Okay, so this is what I know. That, I mean, because I got an email on this, that this Sarah Krone apparently has a massage business, body work business, and she's expressed interest in purchasing this small building over here from the city. And so, Council, with your approval, I'd like Doug to get a valuation of that property. And once we have that, then bring it and we can talk about, yeah, this Doug. And see if that's a road we want to go down. Okay, that's
Sounds good to me.
okay. Okay. You anything more to add to that, Rebecca? Any additional piece of information that you know?
Nope.
Okay.
And it's on my desk.
Yeah. And Matthew, do you know anything more other than the email?
That's all I've heard.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll just see where that goes. So we'll move on to resolution, action items, and ordinances. First action item is consideration of local option sales tax request in the amount of $1,750 for Carnegie Museum. And Melanie is going to explain what the situation is there.
Okay. So there has been a lot of sanitary sewer issues at the Carnegie Museum. The Carnegie budget for building maintenance has been fully utilized for the fiscal year we're currently in. It's mainly been spent on having Roto-Rooter there to clean it out. Eventually, we had Plumco come in and televise the line, and we determined that the lines inside the building are in great condition. We believe the issue lies between the outside of the building and the street, where there are trees, and a lot of plumbing equipment can't get that far, or a lot of cleaning equipment can't get that far. The good news is the sewer lateral is about 10 feet away from the building, and so with the installation of an exterior cleanout, we can perform additional maintenance on the sewer line, we can cut the roots out. Our sewer department can provide cleaning of the lateral should there be any additional future backups, and our sewer department can come before having to call a private company. I am requesting, I guess, any sort of additional funding for this because it's obviously an unbudgeted item. But I guess staff recommendation would be that it comes from Lost. With our agreement with Indian Hills, items such as this are split 50-50 with Indian Hills. So the budget proposal from Plumco to install the two-way cleanout is $3,500, so the city's portion would be approximately $1,750.
And Indian Hills has approved to pay
And
their
Indian
half.
Hills has already approved their portion.
And have we had complete backup in the building?
Multiple times.
Yeah, and it's, well,
And it's
obviously smells an issue.
And it smells. I got a call. I don't remember if it was Thanksgiving weekend or Christmas weekend. It was a holiday weekend, and I had gotten calls from Carnegie staff about the smell being so bad in there that they felt like they couldn't work.
Yeah.
There was some ventilation issues that Plumco did fix at their last visit, and that has helped as well. But this exterior clean out will just make sure that we are able to maintain it. We'll at least be able to have our crews take a crack at it before we have to call in anyone else. So
yeah.
I would make the motion to approve the $1,750 request of local option sales tax money for the Carnegie Museum.
Okay, moved by Flournoy. Is there a second? Second by Candy, sorry. So it's been moved and seconded to pay $1,750 out of the lost funds for this Carnegie expense. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have one question for Mel. And I noticed on the bills this week, there was an $11,500 engineering expense for refurbishing the interior of the library, or the museum. Is that something related to this, or is that something completely, is that a different project they're working on also?
it is not related to this.
Okay.
Maybe one of the board members who is back there can answer it. I'm not for sure what it is.
Okay.
But
I'm unsure of what that is.
I know they've done some kind of master planning for the Carnegie board and foundation, but I don't know if that was exhibits or windows or exactly what all they've done. I have not sat through any of the presentations.
Okay.
Melanie, I think some of it had to do with things that were around the windows.
Okay.
The foundation just got through spending $440,000, and I was kind of surprised. Apparently, the windows got installed and so forth, but then around the interior of the windows.
This sounded like it was an engineering expense for future project, is what it sounded
I don't know.
I did look at that invoice because Denise had me
Yeah.
said that you might ask about it, and so the invoice said for interior renderings, and so
renderings.
Well,
yeah,
that would be different than the windows. Then that may, if it's interior though. The last time that I remember the board talking about engineering was the roof.
Well, this was for Klingner, so they're architects and engineers. So I don't know if they were doing some schematics on revising displays or something like that because of the windows.
Okay. I don't want to get off topic. I was
Sure,
just,
but it doesn't have anything to do with the sewer. It doesn't have anything to do with the roof, and it doesn't have anything to do with the tuck pointing. I do know that much.
Jason has a comment.
Okay. Come to the microphone.
I do think it pertains to the roof diagrams and design. I know we had a meeting a while back about all that, and that might be payment for having that kind of work done. So I know we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, so I could definitely check, make sure, and find out for sure if that's what that cost was for.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Some clarification would be great.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so any other discussion? No, the motion is to pay the $1,750 out of lost funds for the sewer repair. Yeah. No other discussion, call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Kness.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next resolution is consideration of providing for fiscal year 26 financial support of Area 15 Regional Planning Commission in the amount of $5,084.64. And basically, this is our portion to belong to there and get their help.
Move to approve resolution.
Second.
Moved by Gandy, second by Flournoy to approve this resolution. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Gandy?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Kness?
Yes.
Okay, next resolution is consideration for the fiscal year financial support of regional planning affiliation, RPA 15, in the amount of $2,431. And this has to do with getting federal highway and Iowa Department of Transportation funds. And so we participate here too.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Moved by SD, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Esti?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Kness?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Thank you. Next resolution, consideration of fiscal year 26 financial agreement with Grove Fairfield Economic Development Association. There were no changes to this, Ed, from previous year, correct? Okay.
I'd move to approve the resolution with Grove Fairfield.
Moved by Kness,
Second.
second by Gandy. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Kness?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Thank you. Approved unanimously. Next resolution, consideration of contract with Waste Management. So you want to give a rundown, Elizabeth?
Oh, yes, I would love to give a rundown. So this contract that you have on your agenda is the one that we've negotiated back and forth with Waste Management. Some of the issues were discussed this evening. I think the last thing that we addressed in the contract was that option 4, which we voted on last week, basically giving residents the ability to either get the 96 or the 65-gallon trash receptacle. There is a $20 change fee if a household decides that they would like to switch to, either the larger or smaller size. And just to refresh everyone's memory, there was some negotiation back and forth regarding the annual adjuster rate. It was proposed to be 5%. In the initial contract, we negotiated it down to 3.5%. So while we are increasing the monthly cost, I don't know that it was expressed correctly by members of the public earlier, because while right now we have a $16.49 per month, we also had that inflation fee that was added onto that several years ago. So what is it? It's actually more like 18 something.
Yeah, because that was $1.55.
Correct, because it was a $1.55 inflation fee. And for the council's information, it's not unusual to have that annual adjuster fee. One of the other contracts that one of the other cities' waste management services is agency. They have a lower rate, but they've got a 7-year contract. They have a 5.5% annual fee. Washington has a 3% fee. So again, it's not unusual, but we did negotiate it down. I don't know if there are any other questions that the council has. As discussed earlier, if there are individuals who are elderly or have disability or mobility issues that can be corroborated with either, their identification or a doctor's letter, then Waste Management will work with those individuals to make sure that their trash can be collected. I believe those are the highlights, but again, I'm happy to answer any questions that the council has.
Doug, do you mind just giving real quick, because it was mentioned earlier about why we didn't go out for bids, but we looked into what a couple potential, or at least one potential company is, and we pretty much determined that it would cost us more. So just 2 or 3 sentences about that, just so people understand that we did do the research.
Sure, and we do have the ability to just renew the contract. As we did this research, I didn't do it alone. It took the entire staff up front researching other cities and other contracts that they have had, and they broke that down, and I probably have sent most of that information to you. Working with Waste Management directly helped us keep that price down and considerably lower than going out. And, you know, trying to understand the dynamic that we have, that they worked with us and they listened to us as making sure that we could keep those costs low, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. So a lot of the neighboring towns are significantly higher than what we are going to be paying.
Correct.
So
Mount Pleasant's at $24.25. They only have an 18-gallon recycling bin also. And I think the average for some of the towns that Shelby collected information on is like $22. It's right around what we're going to be paying. I think it's like $22.79. Some of those cities are providing their own waste management services, and that ranges from anywhere from $15 to $44 per month. And it also depends on, you know, like, and they're not getting all of the services that we're getting from waste management for this contract that we've been negotiating. So we definitely did research, and thanks to a lot of the city staff who provided all of that research to the committee.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, with that information, any other discussion?
I just had a question. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, Waste Management was looking to renegotiate their agreement, and they gave to the current council members at that time 10 96-gallon trash receptacles to distribute within their particular wards. So some of these residents still have those trash receptacles from 4 or 5 years ago. If we were to approve this contract, what would happen to those receptacles?
Ideally, any of them get picked up at the same time as the delivery. If they're WM branded and still in good working order, they may say this home has one, move on to the next for delivery. Depends what quality status they're still in.
Sure. And so is that going to be a situation where the resident is going to be present at the time the receptacle is delivered, or can be?
Unlikely. Crews will show up, 7 a.m., they'll work into the afternoon and evening, home after home after home, delivering carts. If you happen to work from home, maybe, but we won't coordinate with each individual address to make sure they're home. We'll go down the street, knock out this neighborhood and that neighborhood and this neighborhood, making sure every home gets a cart.
Thank you.
Great.
That will take some coordination and education with the city. I've shared some example mailers, for example, of what we would mail to residents of, hey, starting XYZ date, WM only collect trash if it's in this cart, you'll get a cart delivered this week, whatever it might be. So we welcome the city's feedback on that kind of campaign to mail those out, share that on social media. And if you do approve a contract tonight where they can choose a cart size, we'll need to know in advance who wants 65, and then everybody else is going to get 96, or if you guys decide, hey, who wants 96, and everybody else is getting 65, we'll need to know that.
And you'll coordinate with the city when those delivery dates are going to be, not necessarily?
Correct.
Okay.
So, I'll just say that giving people a choice, you're using your city resources to do this, and it's going to take some work. So I want you to make sure that you think it's worth it because it's going to take extra work here by people to coordinate all that.
Doesn't it cost us some money? Is that what you mean?
Yep, ultimately. Yeah. Ultimately, yeah. So.
Well, I would make a motion to approve this solid waste services agreement that we have on our agenda for waste management.
Second.
It's been moved by Esty and second by Flournoy to approve this solid waste services agreement with the Waste Management, and that is providing a choice to the citizens in Fairfield. So, any questions or discussion?
That's option 4, I think you spoke about earlier, right? Okay.
That was the option 4 that we discussed at a recent city council meeting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
You wanted to table it and then? My motion
Yeah.
prevails.
Yes, thank you for,
Yeah, you're welcome.
thank you for the rundown. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, if there's no other questions or discussion, please call the roll.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Great, that passed unanimously. So, again, thank you, Ammon, for all the meetings you've come up here for and your professionalism dealing with this.
They're great residents. They're passionate about their trash.
Yes, we are.
We will look forward to working with the city to implement this automation smoothly.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Resolution 1256. This is the third and final reading for North Campus Village, and this creates the fund to put the TIP funds in for the North Campus project, Ridge project. I'm not going to read all that. Do I need to read all that again tonight? I did it 100% last time.
I make
So-
a motion that we adopt ordinance 1256.
Second.
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by Toohill to adopt 1256, the third and final reading. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Thank you. Under the mayor's report, I have, even though there's just one thing, I do have more than one thing. The emergency management report, I just wanted to give you an update. Last week, week before, last week I think it was, we did have a meeting, just it was kind of more of a budget work session, talking about future, this coming up fiscal year, and we talked about the $2 per capita. That was the one thing that we did vote on. It was passed to continue with the $2 per capita. I was the dissenting vote. I tried to get it down to $1 per capita. We will continue the current levy as is. The budget is,
I'm sorry, it will be a per capita and a levy?
yes,
What's the levy? I can't remember.
it's about 7 cents.
That's good.
And our expenses and our revenues are about the same. Brett wants to follow through with the app. That costs us about $7,100. If you remember, we talked about it last year about the city paying for a third. And there was a mix in the room. So, but Brett wants to get it done, and we're paying for that out of emergency management. And we told him to put a couple of generators in the budget. We talked about things that would be useful to have in case of an emergency. And so that was one thing that we told him to add to the budget coming up. And so I think we're having a meeting on the 13th. And so after that, I'll bring you a more formalized budget.
Can you tell us the total size of the budget?
Well, it's around about 146,000 spending. There will be a storm spotter training on February 26th, 6 to 8 p.m. That's going to be at the Elks. So anybody that wants to learn that training, it's free. You can go there. The opioid group, we're meeting tomorrow, and by the way, that's open to the public and anybody that wants to come. We're meeting tomorrow at 8:30, and we did get approval, but if you remember, to do this Tall Cop seminar. That's going to be April 29th. There will be from 8 to noon a professional meeting where he will train professionals, medical professionals, educational professionals, and you can get continuing education. And hopefully this next week I'm going to finalize the location for that. We've made a switch from where we originally were going to have it. So because we think we'll have a parking, originally it was going to be at the high school, and we think we're going to have a parking issue because of how many now people we're expecting. So I'm firming that up. And then at night from 6 to 7:30, this will be at the high school. That will be a community meeting and for anybody that wants to go. So again, that's April 29th. And professionals meeting will be 8 to noon and community meeting will be 6 to 7:30. The last thing that I want to note is that last Saturday, there was the legislative breakfast, our first one of the year, and property taxes were brought up. And John did a great job of talking about file 718. We had a little discussion on TIF. I would say from the legislator's point of view, he said 90% of the calls they get are related to property taxes and that their property taxes are too high. We tried to explain that it's about the budget is getting challenged because of that. And one of the things that also came up was apparently somebody mentioned to our representative that the city gives money to the cemetery and why would we do that? So I explained to that legislator afterwards that yes, part of the cemetery, the old part of the cemetery belongs to the city of Fairfield. And yes, we do pay some money to Evergreen Cemetery to take care of that. And I suggested if the state wants to take that over, they certainly probably could. And we wouldn't have that expense. So I want people to know that yes, we do have that expense, but I don't think you would probably want us not to take care of it. So, and it is our property and we certainly don't want to have to take care of it ourselves, really. So
if the cemetery association folds, aren't we obligated to take care of the cemetery?
yeah, it would probably come back to us.
I think that's state law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just it's a practical thing.
It's in our interest to keep them solvent.
Yeah. So that's why we give money to Evergreen Cemetery. So I encourage people to come to the budget. I know that in this last week, your people here, the city administrator, the clerk, the engineer, and staff have been kind of pulling their hair out with this budget so far, trying to squeeze it down, trying to figure out what revenue sources we could change. And that's directly impacted. So we need to be more vocal with our legislators. I did request from Mr. Shipley opportunity to really be more engaged with him and to meet more regularly so that they understand what's happening here on this level. Mr. Dickey had to leave right after the meeting, so I was not able to talk with him about that, but I look forward to more conversations with them. Because I don't think they have a really good handle on what happens here by what they do up there. So, and I encourage our citizens to come to us. You know, if you've got that complaint also that your property taxes are too high, okay, you can have that complaint. But on the same token is, what do you want us to cut? Because there will be services cut, potentially. So. Any questions on that? Not, that's all I have. So we'll move on to the city attorney's report.
Right. I'm going to go back on what you said about the forum for a minute, because what we raised with the legislator group to start with was an article in the Des Moines Register that we'd mentioned at our last meeting. And that was about something that was happening over at Altoona, where they have $1 billion TIF. Now, that's bigger than anything that any of 90 county seat towns around the state is ever going to have to worry about. But Altoona, the 4-page article in the Register was about the TIF being a target and the 718 being a situation where it caps your growth on your budgeted ask at the same time that a TIF doesn't blossom usually for 10, 15, or 20 years. Theirs is going to happen in 9 more years. They got 9 years to clean up the way they interpret the TIF rule, and that was the first thing that we tried to impress upon them is we've got 10 successful TIFs in this town over 30 years. We don't like the idea of the legislature messing with the way it works. I didn't say it that way, but frankly, that whole article was about it, and Adrian Dickey, the senator, was the only one that really gave us much feedback on having read the article. I don't think Jeff Shipley had seen it, and Helena Hayes, she was listening, I guess, closely, but Senator Dickey didn't see it the way that would cause anybody any concerns. And he basically said, well, you know, if that comes up, it's still off in the future, et cetera. But the problem is, 9 years when the legislature is toying with an idea that affects a lot of towns with commitments for 10, 15, or 20 years isn't really such a long time. So that point, I didn't want it to escape the group. I think maybe it did. I think they also were operating under the illusion that 718 is popular, and I don't think it's popular anywhere as far as the people that have to budget this time of year and are struggling. So that did get said, and both the mayor raised the question and I raised the question, and we'll see where they are on it. The papers in the last few days haven't really had much in them about the legislative proposals in the last few days, but I expect there'll be another one of those probably in the next Sunday Register. So, you know, if you get a chance, go look. We did, I think we left it open that we'd ask them to please kind of keep track of what's going on around the other towns with the 718 situation, because there's a lot they could still be doing to make 718 more palatable. But I don't think we beat that horse completely to death yet, but it is something that is going to have to continue as a discussion. I wanted to mention 2 or 3 things. Tom, are you going to report it all on the ambulance agency?
I can, sure.
All right. I think I'll leave it to Tom, but just say that from the city attorney's perspective, what the ambulance agency in the 28 needs to do this spring will probably require 2 or 3 of our meeting sessions to do some notices, and we'll be involved, I believe, in a corporate dissolution of a 28E, which we don't do very often, but that's something that's coming. The Board of Supervisors passed the ambulance levy with the county levying it now. Hospital's going to stop the levy. And anyway, Tom went to a meeting about that the last few days, and I don't know exactly how they voted and so forth, but Tom does. So, let's see. There's 2 things, and the property committee is going to be reporting to you tonight too. And they had a lengthy conference call conversation with one of our 657A lawsuit participants, Michael Goodman. And I'll leave that to the committee to report to you, except to say that Mr. Goodman's case, we tabled it sort of, and he's got a counterclaim against us. If we would do what he wants to do, I think it would end the whole show, but he's reluctant to go away without his $18,500 that's been in escrow for the last 12 years. We've had that tied up out at the credit union. 2 or 3 times he was supposed to do some improvements on the property. A couple of them did get done with his funds rather than the escrowed funds. And now the property's more deteriorated than back when we were after him 10, 12 years ago. So that's a report for the property committee, but I will say that at the same time that we were having a discussion with him, we have another 657A going on that it's still a suit that hasn't been to the judge. There's a petition It's been circulated to some people that are the family members of a lady that owns the property down at 701 South 4th. Those three heirs, none of them have an interest in opening an estate. They don't want to be responsible for their mom's deteriorated structure. We've had problems with people living in a shed behind it. We've had problems with people squatting in it repeatedly. It's boarded up by the city, and it's also been boarded up by the property management group behind the mortgage holder. So I've had 2 or 3 conversations with one lawyer and the people at Guardian Asset Management, specifically their director, about whether they really intend to contest our taking of that property. And at this point, I gave you a copy of the letter that went out to Guardian end of last week. That was accompanied by a package of about 10 different things that are part of that lawsuit. Their legal department is going to look it over. They're going to recommend to the people we've been on the phone with as far as whether there's any sense in trying to go forward. They did ask me a couple questions about if we were to take on the project instead of the city, would we get to keep the property? And I said, well, the whole idea of 657A is for the city to get title in the property so we can do everything we want to do. But if we don't get title to the property and you come in and clean it up, or you demolish it and have a clean lot, that lot down in that neighborhood is an infill lot, might be worth $15,000, $20,000 if you want to do it that way. They didn't think that was going to make much of a difference as far as their mortgage balance that they're looking at probably getting nothing out of. Sometimes these things work that way. The 657A will extinguish their security and their interest. Other than that, we'll probably have some feedback from that by the time of the next council meeting. So sometimes these 657As get a better reaction from the other side. This one's been going on for several months. Mr. Goodman's thing's been going on for well over a year, and actually, as I described in the history of it, it's been going on well over 12 years. So from the 701 South 4th standpoint, though, we have a pretty good chance that they will sign some relinquishment papers. The property will be deeded over to us. If they do that, they'll be out of the lawsuit. 2 of the 3 people that are heirs of the decedent that own the property, as children, have told Weston they'd sign something like a relinquishment once all 3 of them agree. One of them, I think, thinks in some way there's some money in this for them. There isn't at that particular property site. It's pretty well used up. So I look for them to relinquish rather than sit there with this thing likely to become a judgment against them. So going forward with that so far, 657A, which is the second teethiest thing we can do as far as going after a derelict property, is working in that situation. So I didn't give you the whole 10-document package, but the letter referencing it is so far the best news, and we'll keep you up to date on that.
Great. Thank you.
I think that's pretty much it, Your Honor.
Okay. Committee and board reports, public safety and transportation.
Thank you, Mayor. We met, or I should say I met with the city staff. Both Matthew and Elizabeth were unable to get away from their occupations at that noon meeting. So we went ahead and met with Vicki Malloy and Jenny and Steve Collins and just listen to what they were hoping to get some answers to, several questions. And so with administrative staff and the city attorney and the chief, we were able to get a lot of their questions answered, pertaining to especially people who are walking their dogs but then taking the leash off of the collar, or not even having a collar on their dogs, and then people meeting them on the trailways or meeting them in the center square when public events and things are going on. And so, number one, Melanie had come to the meeting with this one-page sheet graphic that we were beginning to work out, just getting ready for January as people are renewing their dog licenses that are the tags that are renewable annually in January. It is $10 if your animals are spayed and or neutered, and otherwise it's $50. But also that is certifying that the vaccinations have been carried out against rabies for this animal, and so that also has to be presented at that time of the veterinarian's certification. It's actually not so much about the tag on the animal, but the certification that has been administered by a licensed veterinarian for the good and health of all. And that is in our city code under Chapter 640, number 60, and requiring all dogs within the city of Fairfield to be registered with City Hall and showing proof of that vaccination. So we had started working on that and getting that ready. And Melanie had made the graphics. Also, there's a notice on this about the limit of the number of dogs per household. And then also what to do if your dog bites someone. That was a beginning thing. And I had also, upon request, had worked and brought to that meeting another, we sat down along with the county attorney and Chris Essel from Public Health, where the responsibilities overlap. Whenever there is a bite, Public Health has to follow through with that report all the way. So we wanted to better understand those simple steps that someone should take. And as the meeting went on, we didn't make any formal decisions. We were just answering questions that were there with the ones that had come so that we could use their time to the best of our abilities. So I presented these steps that I had, and Melanie then continued on. I just have the one page here, but the one that you have attached to the agenda this evening has both the front and back now, and this sheet can be handed out to anyone who is registering their animal and or people just from the general community that would like to come in and get one, to know what those simple steps are, to have it ready, and to talk with family members what they should do in preparedness for some such thing. So one of the things I wanted to get clarified is, because we know when a dog bite happens, sometimes you just we just got to take care of this right now. So my question to Chief Thomas was, what happens first? Do they call you first, or do they just head to the emergency room? Because in the public health notices, it says to make sure that that wound is washed within 15 minutes of the break in the skin. And he said, yes, they should go immediately to the ER, but they can call and a police officer will meet them there. And this is really important because many people are missing that there's a whole packet of materials that will take them from that moment of the incident and that first, checkup, because there's a number of things. Some people might not have their tetanus shots and other things that also have to be followed through. So that's why it's so important that they go and get checked out professionally and not just take it as, oh, it's a small little thing and it just might be okay. The second part is we found out that people weren't reporting bites because they were afraid that the animal would be immediately put down. And we want to dispense with that. That's not it. The animal will be quarantined for 10 days, and the owner can quarantine that dog away, or that animal away from other animals. And public health will follow through along with the police officer to make sure that the behaviors of the animal haven't changed drastically. Because sometimes an animal can just bite because they're nervous, or there were tensions going on, and they become uncertain of their own parameters or their expectations upon them. So that is so important then that we follow through so that that packet of materials can get handed from the officer to the immediate family. Now it does depend, and it does matter if your own dog has bitten a family member compared to your dog biting someone outside of your family. Then it becomes a civil issue, and so there's more to know about this situation from the public health standpoint, where Chris Dessel and her team will be following through with that, because they have to make a report and put it in their files. And that is really important then if that animal or that owner may be being irresponsible. And this does become a court case in the second step of our public ordinances, where we would need things on file such as this. But receiving the packet then assists public health in following through as you fill out the forms that are in that, and that all gets registered. Also, I would like our community members to know that this was new to me. I did not know this. Chris explained that if you take your dog outside of Fairfield, if you travel somewhere else in the state of Iowa or even into another state, and take your animal along, and your animal bites another animal or person there where you have gone to, that report actually comes back to the origin of the animal of its home. And so she also follows through with those. So it is important that you have those certifications and you keep those vaccination reports up to date, because other states will be checking with your veterinarian as well for that information. So if you're going out of town and you know you're taking your animal along, you want to make sure you've got that information handy, because you might need it. And then also, after the forms are filled out, then public health would be receiving that information. Again, the animal needing to be quarantined and followed through with the officer and public health. And then the follow-up, again, on the behaviors of the animal, and if it would to be suspected that rabies was present, that's a series of some very expensive shots, and that's a lot of times where the civil case happens because your insurance will insist on a court case. And so what we are trying to do is just help people understand these processes all along the way. There's a lot of variables, obviously, but we tried to put these onto a simple sheet that you can come to City Hall and pick up, and it will have stuff on the front and the back. These steps and the phone numbers are right there of the number to call. By the way, this is not a 911 call to the police department. It is their business line for a bite or to report a dog running at large. Both of those are reported to their business line. And the public health number is on here as well, right on the front side of the sheet, County Public Health, and if you have any more questions. So getting back to that particular meeting, The question about the dogs running at large, the request was that we would put up some signs that would alert people who are either new to our community or have traveled here, that even though they're out in big Iowa now, out on the plains, and everything looks and feels so free, that farmers, because some of our trails do pass through county land, so it's important that they understand where those city lines are and where the county lines are, but that it is illegal to take even your dog off out in the county, take it off the leash because of animal control of diseases. Also, going through fence lines and maybe coming in contact with domesticated animals or even other wild animals that they might want to be aware of. So on the front of this sheet that's in your link there, this team of three really liked this simple graphic that Melanie had made and would like to use this. And so when they found out that our finances and human resources are just pretty much at their max, this team of three thought that they would go and do the investigation here. They were going to call Iowa Prison Industries and find out if they could turn this simple portion of it into signs that could be posted along our trails in the more heavily used areas, and then also around our city square. And so they're going to come back to us with some more information on that before the springtime. They want to do some fundraising to help raise the cost of that. It's going to be around $100 for the top sign portion and the post for each one. And then also maybe just pick out some strategic places to post those signs, and that way we could keep the cost down as well. So just filling you in that it wasn't any decisions at this point, but that they would be getting back to us, and you'll hear more about that. But we wanted to make people aware that this flyer is available, and also for parents who want to have a sit-down conversation with their children, there is a coloring book that the CDC has made of how to talk to your child about approaching animals that are strange to them, because the animal doesn't know your child, and the child sometimes isn't always anxious to meet other people's animals real quickly. And so how you can have those conversations, and that coloring book is on the Jefferson County Public Health website. If you go clear to the bottom of the first page, there's 4 downloads there, and one of them is the coloring book. And so you can get that out and copy it off and do some coloring and talking about the appropriate ways to be approaching animals in public in a safe manner. So,
great, thank you.
Yeah.
Property Committee.
Yes, the Property Committee met on Wednesday this past week and considered 2 properties that the city is considering dealing with. One of them is the Michael Goodman property that John already mentioned. It's over at 604 North B Street. And that problem has been going on for well over a decade. I drove by there the other day, and virtually every window in the building is broken. And Mr. Goodman is trying to sell the property, he says, but there's no for sale sign in front of the building. And the city is in the process of proceeding through a 657A for that building. And we talked to him for about half an hour, and I suggested to him that if he wanted to donate that to that building to the city, that we would consider using the escrow money that John mentioned. There's $18,000 in escrow. That is, co-signatories are Michael Goodman and the city. So he can't spend the money without our permission. And they're designed to rehabilitate the building, but it's not enough money to do anything. It's enough money to tear the building down, though. So I told him that if he would consider demolishing it, then he should come back to us and talk to us about that escrow money. If he could sell it, that'd be fine, but should come to us and talk to us about who he's going to sell it to and what they're going to do with the building, because if he sells the building, we'll start over again with those 657A proceedings. So that could delay things. But we didn't take any action on that. The other property...
The 657 proceeding is proceeding.
Yes, it is going forward, right. The other property is at 609 North 4th Street, right. And that building has no utilities, so there's no water, there's no heat, there's no sewer, there's no electricity. It's been red tagged by the city. There's a gentleman living there.
Red tag meaning?
It's uninhabitable. And we talked to him for about an hour, and he had a workout plan that was approved by Weston last year in the spring. And we went through the list of items on that workout plan, and he had done basically nothing on it. And then he had proposed another workout plan in the fall, but Weston didn't approve it. And so now we're considering what to do with that property, and the recommendation on council is to go ahead and proceed with condemning that property, which might take 6 months, I guess. Could it be done that fast?
Yeah.
I thought it could be. And in the condemnation process, what happens is the city would acquire ownership, and the property would be assessed a valuation, and the owner would be compensated for the property. In which case, then we would have to demolish it, I suppose. So that's the motion is to, I would make the motion to have the city move forward with the condemnation process on that 609 North 4th Street.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Florey's motion?
Second.
Second by Gandy. So the motion is to move forward with the condemnation process at 609 North 4th. Any discussion? Questions?
Is there any way of knowing how it would be valued, or would he be getting anything from that?
I can't imagine it's not worth very much.
Yeah.
Liz, we'd have to go through 2 appraisals that the city does and make him an offer of the better of the 2. He can do independent appraisals himself. I doubt that he will. But if we do that and we have a strict condemnation, we pay him some compensation, but then it's ours. And as soon as we do that filing in the recorder's office, it's ours. At that point, if he wants to appeal, he can take it to district court about the way we treated him on our payment on the appraisals and so forth. Or if he's got a better appraisal than ours, then we may want to talk with him some more, but I'm not thinking he'll do that. And the other thing about that gentleman was he had a lot of ideas that might challenge us sometime. I called him outside our first Amish presentation that I've heard in years, where he was suggesting that maybe he could live in there without electricity, with another form of light, and without water except tanked or water bottled. And there have been some cases about exceptions for a strong belief like the Amish have as far as living a different lifestyle. This guy's not Amish. I'm not saying you should discriminating about Amish versus non-Amish, but his ideas are like those cases.
But the
call
building
for
is
considering an exception.
The building is not habitable.
No.
Correct.
No, and he
So he would have to
both
bring it
lived
up.
in the garage shed behind it and in the house. And neither one of them. I'm surprised he's alive. He no heat. Lives under some blankets and thinks that's better than having a heater. And I think everybody was listening closely to how do you get along. And he still wants to live that way. So.
Anything else, Doug?
No.
I thought you were going to say something. Okay, so
Call the question.
we do have a motion and a second to move forward the condemnation process 609 North 4th. If there's no other questions or discussion?
I would just say I'm a member of the committee. We had an opportunity to spend some time with the resident, and I fully support the motion. The property is in terrible shape, and it's a risk to the city and, quite frankly, to him.
Yes. It's really unfortunate because he's homeless, essentially, if we take the property, but he's homeless if he keeps the property because he'll just live in that building, right?
Yeah.
I thought you would not consider that to be a home.
No.
We're not.
Okay, well, let's move forward with the motion and the vote.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Esty.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Kness.
Yes.
Okay, that was approved unanimously.
I just think that I know that I am on the property committee, and I know that we've talked about some of these issues before, but I really want us to try to figure out how we can help people before we get to this point where we're just getting them out of their homes and making them homeless, you know? And like, I know that maybe this is not the best case for that, right? You know, like bad facts and all that, but
There was a record. There was help. There was. He worked with Weston over, I believe, a year.
Yeah.
Over a year ago, you submitted
Close
a
to a
plan
year.
to
So
work out.
yeah, we were really working with him, trying to make things
understand.
work. Yeah.
Here's the problem. He presented himself. He was clean, well-dressed, intelligent, articulate. I don't understand why he's not fully employed and
He's current on property taxes.
current on his taxes.
Yes.
No.
No, there's a tax sale on it.
Is it?
oh really?
You're talking about North 4th?
Sorry?
So now,
North 4th?
Yeah.
There's a tax sale.
How delinquent are they?
It was just sold in 24.
okay.
Strong opposition to electromagnetic fields, one of the considerations, and we've got two others coming from Weston probably in the next 2 months that are situations where we've tried to help people get into the same thing we suggested to Michael Krone. We have 3 large public housing type apartment buildings that all have a requirement from HUD that there be a part of the building that's available for challenged handicapped use. I think they have to have 4 or 5 units at least that are available for that. And in every situation where we try to encourage people to get on the list over there, it'll be the best opportunity you've had to live better than this place that's falling down around you. Please look at it. And if somebody doesn't want to be helped that way and don't consider that help at all, we're not going to get anywhere with them. Mr. Krone was familiar with the public housing, but they have electricity, so he doesn't want to live there. The 2 that Weston are going to bring you, it's more of a situation of personal pride. They don't want to go to public housing when they have their own home, even if it's squalid.
And I do think some of these have, since we've had Weston on board the last couple of years, some of these are just now coming to a head. So hopefully going forward, you know, maybe we can get a better process and also get people using the area 15 low income loans, the no income loan grants. And I'm also hoping that they maybe could be coupled with program from Habitat. So, but you know, that just takes time for all this to work, and unfortunately this is where we're at with a couple of these. So it's tough. It's tough. Okay, that's all for you.
Do you want me to talk about the ambulance real quick?
Oh yes, please.
Last Tuesday at 2 o'clock, we had a very short ambulance board meeting. None of the representing attorneys were able to attend, so I guess maybe that's why we had a very short ambulance board meeting. But we did discuss dissolution of the 2080, and I think we're at that point. Our next meeting is April 15th at 2 o'clock at the hospital. And we just discussed talking to each one of the attorneys prior to that for them to get together and draw out the steps that it'll take to move forward with that. Now that the county's running it, there's really not a need for the board at this point, we feel. There is about roughly $73,000 left in the fund, which, if not needed for anything, will be divided up equally among the three entities, the hospital, the county, and the city. So we won't really know much more until the April 15th meeting, when we kind of spell out the steps and everything of what it'll take and how long it'll take to do that. So we meet every 3 months, so that the 15th will be the next one. That's
Okay,
it.
Great.
Can you imagine the county won't need that money?
The county is very, well, by rule, it has to be divided up among the three entities equally, as the contributions were made, and that's how they were made. So by rule, it'll have to be done that way. There's a new representative for the county now on the board, and she's very open to anything that needs to be done. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Administrator and department reports. Okay, Mel's gonna go first, okay?
Okay, a ton of stuff going on. Probably most important, most exciting is we had a pre-construction meeting on the fire station today. Started discussing the schedule with the contractor. They made me swear to not tell you guys any dates because, we don't know what's going to happen with winter. But as soon as winter decides that it's going to be spring, they'll be moving in. We started discussing location of a job trailer, getting temporary utilities, and all of the initial ins and outs going, and submittals and shop drawings for the concrete panels. So a lot of behind the scenes stuff right now going forward on that. But it was exciting to really get into the details of the construction on that today.
Excuse me, Melanie. Just to clarify, what's a submittal?
Submittal? So the contractors will submit either...
Oh, submit.
Submittal,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. What?
Yeah.
That was a candy.
It's an engineering word, smittle.
Submittal, I see. Okay.
For approval of the specifications, I do know Brett and I spoke to Rotary on Friday, and the details of the training tower are just still fascinate me, and all of the different hooks and windows and levers and trap doors and things that are incorporated into it to allow them to train. The approval process of making sure that Mount Pleasant Precast builds each of those sections correctly so that everything lines up will take some time to make sure each one of those panels are meeting the training needs. But actually the contractor was saying that the foreman did, what town was it that they were saying that, but he did a fire station recently actually, so.
Marion.
Marion?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good meeting this morning. I had an email from Marcus with French Vinegar today looking at setting a meeting soon to discuss the final plans on the Walton Lake Causeway Bridge. So hopefully at your next meeting we'll have some drawings ready to go to quotes on that project, and to be able to start as soon as possible, and really leave it up to the contractor whether they start during when the ground's still semi-frozen or not. And then on the Burlington Avenue restriping, that one's been sitting there for a while, but with us starting the budget process, I am working very hard on an estimate for a couple different versions of the downtown two-way streets, as well as the corner crosswalks at Main and Burlington that public safety requested, and all incorporating the adding of the bike lanes and the restriping, shifting, trying to minimize any rework on either one of those. So working on getting those for budget discussions. One issue, and Doug, correct me on this one, but one issue that I think we would like to have property committee or public safety committee address is the Broadway alley arch that beautification has talked with you guys about. We're still waiting for the utility locate to be finalized. But different construction, I didn't have an opportunity to speak with you guys when this was presented, but different construction that, underground construction that I've had there, I get lots of red flags from the utility companies. They don't like anyone digging there. There's 220 electricity, there's the communication line that I think serves the courthouse. There's a lot of major stuff that serves things. And so everyone gets really nervous when that area gets dug into. We need the locates to get finalized before we can really get a locate, or before we can make a recommendation. But I think that's something that one of those committees needs to discuss more before council kind of approves or moves forward with that request from beautification.
So preference, council, do you want it to go to property or to public safety? Do you have a preference?
Public safety.
Send it to property.
No property can take it.
Yeah, okay. Let's move it to property.
Then something that I've been, Doug and I have been working on, and really a lot of the departments have all pitched in on this. Every year the city, all of the ICAP, Iowa, what is ICAP
Andy's assurance pool.
Yes, our insurance, every member gets a $1,000 grant each year to support safety equipment. And this year, in 2024, we decided to spend that on security cameras for the rec center and some here at City Hall. So several, with it being the rec center and Calvin not having a lot of staff, several of the other departments came and were stringing cables and wires everywhere, and it was really an all hands on deck. I kind of forgot about the concrete wall that is behind the, not the pickleball courts, the racquetball courts. So there was a little bit of reworking on all of that, but we did use that money. We got 8 new cameras installed at the rec center. So just shout out to the crews that helped with that. They all came together and did a great job. And thanks to ICAP for that grant. And then, let's see, 2 more things. Attached to the agenda was a brochure on purchasing property in Fairfield, Iowa. So the Planning and Zoning Department has been doing some public outreach the last month. We sent this brochure out to realtors, legal offices, and banks. This is one of a couple brochures that we've been working on. This was the first one that we were ready to print. We also have this available in the lobby here and available on the website. But it just covers several things that we see in the planning department that cause problems when people don't have maybe legal advice when they are purchasing property. We send it out to the legal offices because thinking maybe they might want a second opinion to share with their clients. But definitely good support for to have out at the banks as well. Also just reaching out to the realtors. We try to do it every couple years. It's been a while. reminding them, we're here to answer questions, hopefully not the day of a sale. If you have questions on zoning and things of that nature, that we can help, again, trying to avoid some of those pitfalls that happen with that miscommunication. So we do have some of those. I think they're in the lobby, but they are attached to our website as well. Okay, and then lastly, this is related to the FIDA annexation subdivision, and I'm not sure what all I did it last in case Doug wants to lead into this. I did not bring an agreement or any sort of proposal as far as support for the preservation of Marsden Barns. There was, I'll say, an offer or a proposal from the county today. We are sending that on to Allers for review. And I think that's about really all to say, but still without the county's approval of the joint agreement for FIDA, we can't really move forward with some of that TIF work, but we're still working on it.
Yes.
I don't know if Doug or Rebecca have anything, or Ed have anything else to add, but we don't have anything really for you guys to review or consider tonight on that as we had hoped. We're still working on it.
Well done.
Melanie, I just have a quick question. Are there like street lights or parking or just lights for nighttime on the east parking lot of the Park and Rec currently? Do you know?
The east one?
Yeah.
Should be.
If there are, they're all burnt out.
The one that is on the
really
street
dark.
comes on late. So, and I will check and see if it might be that it is on a timer rather than a day night, but I can ask about that.
Because there's a lot. I mean,
With
basketball
basketball
games
games.
start at 4:45, so by the time you come out, it's pitch. I mean, it's
Yes.
pitch black. Like some of the kids are like, I have to flash the lights on my car to even find it. It's that dark.
Yep.
So,
yeah. And I believe most of those are owned by us, not ones that we rent from Alliance, so I will check on those. All right, like I said, a lot going on, so if there's any questions, but those were the ones I wanted to point out for tonight.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Malloy. Appreciate it.
Motion and a vote on the referral to the property?
If you want to vote for it, you go for it. I don't.
Should do it.
Make a motion.
They did. Make a motion to move the alley question to the property committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Mr. Reiner.
I will be brief. We still have a lot more work to do with waste management for data collection. We'll keep you updated on the next steps, but there's quite a bit of work for them to do, or us to do. We'll all pitch in. Again, budget update. We are right now going through, hopefully this week, maybe a little bit of next week, meeting with all department heads to talk about their individual department budgets, trying to figure out where we stand before we present it to Ways and Means Committee, but those will be coming very soon. We are a little bit behind, trying to adjust numbers, making sure that we're getting things correct. Then I've got two more things that I really want to talk about is 405 South D Street. I apologize. The last council meeting, I discussed this, but I guess I should ask for some sort of direction or action. Code enforcement has done asbestos testing on this building for the recommendation to have it torn down on 405 South D Street. But I'm not, does council want us to tear it down? We do not own this property. It's to be abated, and we would have to recover those costs through taxes or what have you. But do we have any recommendations of how the city would like us to move forward?
We already have a motion to have a bid let for that demolishing. So you can go ahead and get bids.
If that is what you,
We already made a motion and passed it,
okay,
so I think it's good.
okay.
Good memory, Doug.
Yeah, it's been.
My idea.
I was gonna say,
We will send out, we'll get a bid packet together and,
Just from my experience, when you put, like, if you want to put that on as a special assessment, the property demolition and cleanup, if it's more than what the property is worth, it generally won't sell at tax sale. So just something to keep in mind.
and
And then it just sits there.
I believe, yeah, and I believe that will be the case.
Yeah.
Well, ideally, we can get these people to turn their properties over to the city, and at least we get the property value of the lot.
Right, yeah.
Okay. And then I have a couple of things that was passed along to me about some of the rec programs. At the 25th and 26th, there'll be a volleyball tournament in February 1st and 2nd, volleyball tournament. Then there, on February 8th, there's Special Olympics basketball. February 15th and 16th, another volleyball tournament. March 8th and 9th is another volleyball tournament at the rec center. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and we did get those cameras installed, and hopefully that helps us in the future. That's all I have.
Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Toohill,
Second.
second by Esty. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
The guy that owns,
Meeting adjourned.
Yes, I'll get that.